Chapter 2. When an unhappy Adrianne arrived at the private airfield with a pensive Wilder and Drayton, they boarded the Samsaw's jet with her leading the way. The werewolves huddled together whispering as Adrianne walked unnoticed to the sleeping compartment, settling back in one of the lounge chairs. Wilder and Drayton sat facing each other. They were immersed in the conversation about how Bane posed an immediate danger to their family, and for a moment they didn't miss Adrianne. She kicked her sandals off and switched on the television to catch up on the news. In over a week, she hadn't read a newspaper or watched television. Those things were just distractions for her in the real world. She wanted to forget reality and stay in the fantasy of Drayton's arms and of being in Hawaii. There she could put everything out of her mind until she returned to the ranch. However, her fantasy life with Drayton had been interrupted by Wilder. Before Wilder had arrived, she was able to bond with Drayton with the silence of the day. As she lay in his arms, looking up at the night sky, they dreamed and talked about how their lives would change once she was pregnant and how wonderful she felt in his arms. Adrianne thought that she owed Drayton all her attention because he had never had a female before, and he was actually shy. He never would have had the nerve to mate with Adrianne if she hadn't encouraged him and showed him how pleasurable sex is. The door opened to the sleeping cabin, and standing before her was Wilder. "Adrianne, you are so beautiful. I've missed you." That must have been hard for Wilder to admit that he had missed Adrianne, because he had always been a loner by nature and was never home. She felt that as long as he had his sons, she was his last thought. He was busy most of the time, and when they made love it was when he came home after a tiring trek from state to state policing werewolf packs. But here he stood, his long legs wide, his broad shoulders and that gorgeous face staring down at her, admitting how much she had affected him by her absence. Wilder's eyes showed a torrent of need and want. He couldn't disguise his body's response to her. She had never seen him quite so aroused. He moved to her with stealth and speed, leaning over her. "What are you doing?" she asked. He stood over her, his muscular arms positioned above her head. He had changed his clothes to a white shirt over a pair of soft blue jeans, the cuffs of the shirt rolled up over his wrists, the muscles in his arms flexing each time he moved. She felt his hard rippling stomach muscles contracting when he leaned into her, and his swollen manhood when his hips grazed hers. "I've been dreaming of the time when I could feel you and hold you in my arms. I need you now," he said. His lips lightly touching her warm neck, reminding him of his animal instincts when he hunted for meat, and he held life and death in his hands. He was that powerful, yet in the presence of Adrianne he was weak. He was weak for her, because he wanted her more than he had wanted anyone or anything. Adrianne knew that she would have to deal with Wilder and Lysel, but she hadn't counted on it being this soon. She gazes into his eyes, trying for diplomacy. "My love," she said in a small voice as she raked her fingers through his silky dark hair regarding his blue eyes. "I want you as much as you want me, but now is not the time. It's Drayton's time. You asked for this, and now you have to be respectful of our union, and he's my legal husband." Wilder shot to his feet. "I respect my brother, but you're my mate, and that supersedes you being married to him, legal or otherwise. I impregnated you first, and it's my right if I want to take you now." Adrianne glared at Wilder and turned her head in defiance. "Now you sound like Lysel," she said, leaning away from him and facing the television as if he didn't exist. Wilder felt insulted when he heard those words fall from Adrianne's lips. Wilder's blue eyes grew cold as if he was thinking about taking Adrianne and pushing aside her feeling and words. He needed her, and what did it matter whether she was married to Drayton or not? As the alpha werewolf, he had a right, because he had mated with her first. There was the law of the werewolves that his brothers would respect. Drayton knew what his intentions were when he entered the sleeping cabin and saw Wilder and Adrianne, but if she had protested he would have stopped Wilder, but they both glanced at him as if Drayton was the intruder, so Drayton walked out without a word. It was Wilder who chose to share his precious mate, and he was grateful that he had a part of her too. When the door closed behind Drayton, Wilder said, "I could take you now if I wanted, and you couldn't do anything about it. You wouldn't dare pull that on me. All I'm asking you to do is respect Drayton's right." And I have. Wilder was still standing over a sitting Adrianne. He was so tall, but he was looming over her, and for a moment she could see how intimidating he could be, but she was not afraid of him. To her he was still that wounded lone werewolf in the cave, who she had nursed back to health, and taught him love and sexual satisfaction for her and for him. "Respect my right to say no, otherwise you are no better than those men that raped me." Wilder's eyes flashed with disbelief and disappointment. He had never anticipated that she would say those words to him. Before he realized it, he had reacted by grabbing Adrianne and lifting her up by her waist, with her feet dangling off the floor as he stared into her eyes. He was angry and hurt, and she knew it. She saw his nostrils flaring and his chest moved up and down. "I have nothing but respect for you. You are the mother of my pups, my true mate, and I love you beyond life. Do you think I would force you to do anything? If you think so little of me, and that I am some kind of animal, then maybe I should find another mate, and you can remain with Lysel and Drayton. Then maybe you should." Wilder stared at Adrianne, wanting to take his words back, but most of all wanting to kiss her, and feel the inside of her warm opening tightening around his manhood, but he let her fall on the bed. Just as quick, he opened the door and strode out, closing the door behind him with a bang. In the future, they both would regret their words and actions. Drayton rushed into the room as Wilder headed to the front. Adrianne had her head down, and when Drayton tilted her chin to him, he saw a tear fall from her eyes. He wiped it away with his little finger. "What is it, baby?" His voice was warm and comforting. "Don't cry. You're too beautiful and strong to let Wilder affect you that way. Did he do anything to you that you didn't want? I will have a talk with him." "No. He didn't do anything to me. He respects your right. He's just feeling pressure from all that's going on, and I know what the effects of the coming of the full moon will have over all of you." "Yes. I understand Lysel, and I have made his life very difficult. Me with not marrying Mina, and Lysel with killing that werewolf from Oregon. Lysel had no choice. He was going to take me and use me, and then let his young males rape me until I had pups for them. That was after he killed Lysel's pups I was carrying. Don't say any more. I can't stand the pain that you were put through. I'm glad Lysel killed him, and I'm glad he took care of those men that raped you." "What?" "I've said too much. You need to get some rest. We will be landing in Nevada in an hour." "Why is everyone telling me to rest? I don't want to rest, and I don't want you to leave me." She reached for his hand and he sat down near her. Drayton kissed her, and although it was filled with passion and she was aroused, it didn't compare to the kiss Wilder had placed on her neck earlier. His kisses were filled with danger and seduction. The thought of Wilder entering her made her opening wet and her clit hard, and she moaned from the thought. "Some honeymoon we had." "Well, most of it, until the big bad wolf came bringing bad news," Adrianne said, half smiling, and Drayton laughed. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to lie here with you in my arms and enjoy the last few minutes we have together. You have your job cut out for you, and we still have work to do." "I don't think you're pregnant yet," Drayton said with a raised eyebrow and passion inching through him. "Do you think something is wrong? Maybe we're trying too hard. Maybe I didn't relax and I was too eager?" Adrianne asked with her bright, sad eyes. "No way. You are as fertile as a rabbit. Look at what you did with Lysel and Wilder. I'm happy you are the way you are. You being eager and instructive, helping me to enjoy sex every possible way. When you kissed me here," Drayton said, cupping his large penis, "I thought I was in heaven." Drayton didn't want to alarm Adrianne. She had wanted his baby so much. It could be that he was infertile. It could be genetic. Maybe it had something to do with him being the lastborn of the triplets. He wouldn't know now, but if he didn't get her pregnant soon, then he would have to consult a doctor. He thought about Robert. He would consult Robert, who had developed a serum for Mina, and now she was pregnant. Maybe it would work for him, but then she was a female whereas he was a male.